Today we're in the Wisdom of Proverbs. I am Andrew Whaley. The book of Proverbs is a collection of sayings that come to us from a variety of different stories or different time periods. So it's hard to really place how this book came together or how it's structured in a particular order. We do find that the literature itself is congruent with many other wisdom writings of other traditions in the ancient Near East of the time. The book is shaped by two major forms. One is the sentence, which is an observation about the way the world works, and the other is an imperative. It is a direction. It is a statement to the reader telling them to do something or to avoid something. So you can take note as you read through the book where there are the sentences making declarations and where there are imperatives telling you how to live. We think that the sources of this instruction come from three different places. One is family instruction for children and parents trying to raise their children faithfully. Another, we believe, may have been used in schools for people in Israel. And the third would have been used in the royal court. Some of the Proverbs are easy to tell where they would have come from. Others are a little more ambiguous. So most of these Proverbs, we believe, were assembled by scribes after the exile. Scribes became incredibly important after that time in Babylon to the shaping of Judaism and the way of life for the Jewish people after their return to Jerusalem. There are five major themes to be looking for as you're reading through the book of Proverbs. The first is wisdom theology. It is this idea that all of life, even the most mundane and routine activities, are something that are things directed by God. God cares about the ordinary and routine things of our life and is involved in them. The second theme of Proverbs is that the Creator God has a hidden order for how the world works and presides over that order. So there's observations all through Proverbs that you'll see about the world. One observation here, another statement there, eventually leading to a consensus for how the world works. The third theme you'll see in Proverbs is about the education of the young. There are instructions about money and food and friends and sex, words of advice to young people. These words assume there is this order to the world, but it is not easily understood or followed, but requires a certain way of life and discernment and a right orientation toward the world. Second, it says that everybody is capable of learning it. This is not like God appearing to Moses on Mount Sinai. Everybody can achieve wisdom through this right orientation. It's interesting, too, in this theme, how we see this way the world works and how we understand it through observation and action and consequence that leads us to discover it. In some ways, this is a long way before the scientific method that we now use, but it is a precursor to it. We might be able to read the book of Proverbs as an encouragement to explore the natural world with all of our abilities, to learn everything we can scientifically, for there we come to know the order that God has for the world. The fourth theme we see in Proverbs is that some decisions that we make in our lives lead to deeper and greater life, and some decisions we make in life produce death. And that theme leads into the fifth, which is this understanding of deed and consequence. This world of deed and consequence leads the writer of Proverbs to declare that you better be careful not to screw up in this order of God. There's no slippage. Now, this part of Proverbs gets a little away from the world of the covenant and the world of Israel's history where God acts mercifully and graciously. You'll note in Proverbs there's actually no mention of the covenant of God with Israel or of Israel's history at all. In fact, some of this deed consequence stuff sounds almost like deism, that God's a great clockmaker who has put the world in order and now sits back and watches it play out. Some believe that the book of Job is included in the Bible as a counterpoint to this deed consequence understanding of Proverbs. Job is righteous, yet Job suffers. That's the opposite of the way the writers of Proverbs think. One last note as you read this book. You're going to encounter two women in Proverbs 1 through 9 and chapter 31. One's the woman of folly, one is the woman of wisdom. There's been a lot of writings about who these women are, who knows. But one way, very practical, Proverbs is a practical book with advice, especially advice for young people. So one practical way to read this is that these two women represent an economic equation. There's a lot of ancient Persian writings that encourage men to marry women with a strong business sense who will make lots of money so the men don't have to work. So perhaps, very simplistically, these words about the woman of folly and the woman of wisdom is an encouragement to young men to find a wife who works hard and makes a lot of money. It's not very spiritual, but as much of Proverbs is, it's practical for that time period. So as you read this book, take advantage of this new kind of writing, this wisdom literature. See where the Proverbs still speak into your own lived experience. See where you might be discerning the order to the world and the deeds and the consequences that come from our deeds, and how God is behind and guiding it all.